On April 8, 2026, the market made a move that to most looked like a complete shock. But we're not here to sift through the news for a reason. We're here to debrief on the mechanical reality that dictated the event from the very start. Let's examine the blueprint. So let's look at the raw data. The Nifty jumped by about 870 points. That's a massive 3.8% move, closing right around that 24,000 mark. Now, for the public, a move like this sends everyone scrambling for a why. But the data, well, the data tells a very different story. And this slide, this gets right to the heart of it. On one side, you have the chaos of reaction, people trying to connect the dots with news and sentiment. On our side, the clarity of a decoded signal. What looks like a total surprise to the market was, from our perspective, already a foregone conclusion. You see, the day's price action didn't just happen randomly. It was following a very precise, pre-written script. The outcome was, for all intents and purposes, locked in long before the closing bell ever rang. So let's take a look at the engine that writes these scripts. This is our mechanical engine, what we call MAPS. It doesn't predict, it calculates. Think of it like this. It operates on a layer underneath all the conventional analysis. It completely ignores news, ignores sentiment, and instead decodes the market's raw structural dynamics into what we call mechanical certainties. Now, the timeline here is absolutely critical. At exactly 9:15 a.m., the system's math locked in a positive bias for the entire day. The market's initial hesitation, that wobble right after the open, totally irrelevant. The signal was already set. The rest of the day was just the market playing catch-up to a reality that was already established. So the big question is, how? How did the engine arrive at this conclusion so early in the game? Let's deconstruct the primary inputs that were processed for April 8th. This is where we go from the what to the how. The first inputs are what we refer to as the celestial gears. And let's be clear, this has nothing to do with astrology. Think of these as underlying synchronized frequencies in the technical data. They're predictable cycles that operate on their own rhythm, completely separate from the noise of the daily news cycle. For this particular session, two of these frequencies were dominant. First, something we labeled the Jupiter push, which is a key long-term momentum cycle. And second, the key moon chain, a very specific short-term pattern. Now, the exact calculation is proprietary, but their perfect alignment was the first critical piece of the puzzle. It told us a massive amount of directional energy was building up. Okay, so you've got all this energy building up, but which way is it going to go? That's the job of the system governor. If the celestial gears provide the potential energy, the governor sets the vector. It's the one primary variable that dictates the directional flow for the whole day. And for April 8th, that governing variable, what we called the Lord of Nakshatra, pointed one way. This input confirmed that all that energy from the aligned frequencies was going to be channeled into a positive flow. This wasn't a possibility, it was a directive from the system's core logic. But a raw signal, no matter how strong it is, just isn't enough. To get to mechanical certainty, you have to audit that signal. You have to filter out every last bit of potential noise. This is probably the most critical phase before any signal is confirmed. We run this audit using a 5-stage verification protocol we call the 5-veiled rule. You can think of it as our most sophisticated noise cancellation system. It interrogates the initial signal, stress testing it against dozens of conditions to ensure its absolute integrity. So, when you put it all together, the sequence is what matters. The bias was set at 9:15. The underlying data frequencies were aligned. The governor dictated a positive flow. Our 5-stage protocol filtered out all the noise, and the final signal was confirmed, positive. This entire chain of logic was complete while the rest of the market was still trying to figure out the opening minutes. And this brings us to the real takeaway of this whole process. What we're talking about is a fundamental shift in the market paradigm. It's moving away from reactive surprise and toward proactive certainty. This really illustrates the two different realities, doesn't it? On one side, you have the public view, reacting to headlines, hunting for reasons after the fact, and being constantly surprised. And then you have the mechanical view. You're not reacting to the news, you're reading the map that's already drawn. You're not searching for reasons, you're calculating reality. You see certainties. So let this be the key takeaway from our debrief today. That 870-point move? It wasn't some wild surprise. It was a mechanical certainty, calculated and confirmed before the real move even got started. So I'll just leave you with this one question to think about. In a world that is drowning in information and narratives,
Are you watching the news? Just reacting to the effects? Or are you reading the map and understanding the cause?